My dear viewers, this is a new edition of Africa Today. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Well, Cairo have called for the industrialization in Africa and also to boost the intra-trade among the continent's countries. And this came during an African Union extraordinary session of African ministers of trade, industry and mining in Ethiopia. The details on the following report.
The first extraordinary session of African Ministers of Trade, Industry and Mining organized by the African Union Commission concluded in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The meeting focused on advancing regional integration and evaluating the progress of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AFCFTA. The agreement has entered its operational phase. Discussions also addressed the varying levels of economic integration among Africa's regional communities and trade blocs. On the sidelines of the event, the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade stressed the importance of industrialization in addressing Africa's low levels of intracontinental trade, which fall short of global averages. Hassan Al-Khatib highlighted the need for targeted action as the third industrial development decade for Africa approaches its conclusion in 2025. Al-Khatib urged African nations to focus on the fourth industrial development decade, starting in 2026, to increase industrial output and enhance value chains within Africa trade sectors. During this session, participants emphasized the importance of achieving balanced regional integration to ensure the full and inclusive implementation of the AFCFTA. Ministers agreed on the necessity of integrating all African nations into the agreement before advancing to higher levels of economic integration. A consensus was reached to convene a conference evaluating the readiness of African states for new initiatives such as a common African market or customs union, as outlined in the Abuja Treaty, a foundational document for Africa's integration efforts. Al-Khatib also addressed the sustainable management of Africa's vast mineral resources, calling for strategies that incorporate environmental responsibility and add value to raw materials extracted within the continent. He underscored that this approach would maximize the economic benefits of Africa's natural wealth while ensuring long-term sustainability.
Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, Dr. Amr Hamed, the economic expert. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Well, Dr. Hamed, the African Union extraordinary session of the African trade industry and also mining have focused on advancing the regional integration. So how important is it for African nations to advance integration in these specific fields?
It's very important first to emphasize the geographic location of Egypt vis-à-vis the African countries and the link between Africa, Europe and Asia. That's very important. This is where we should really invest the location of Egypt as the most important corner of the whole world, lying the three continents. And as you know, when we speak about the location, the geographic location of Egypt, we're speaking about another very important link between the developed world in Europe and the underdeveloped world in Africa.
Yes.
So this is where Egypt could really play a pivotal role in linking both, because Egypt lies in the middle as a developing country. So it is really relating developed vis-à-vis underdeveloped, being a developing country. This is the most important thing. In this respect, Egypt can play the role of a hub that links both in terms of, number one, energy, which is very important, an energy hub that serves the African countries in terms not only of electricity, well, yes, electricity, of course, but also what we call clean energy, what we call the green energy, in terms of the importance of the green energy for the environment, and also the blue energy, which has to do with mainly anything that has to do with the seas and the oceans. And as you know, also the Red Sea, for example, is more or less linking a lot of important African countries from the western side, the western shores, vis-à-vis Asian shores on the eastern side of the Red Sea, and the same is very true when we speak. Well, the Red Sea is also it belongs partially to Egypt as well, because Egypt overlooks the Red Sea. Not only this, but also the Gulf of Suez, which is 100% an Egyptian sea, and the Gulf of Aqaba, which is shared between Egypt and other Asian countries from this side. And also the importance of the Mediterranean, and Egypt overlooks the Mediterranean from one side, and is actually if you want, the gate to Africa, the gate to African countries, linking Africa to the southern shores of the Mediterranean, which means all the European southern shores like Greece, Italy, France, and Spain. So this is one thing. The other, which is very important, is the importance of establishing industrial big projects in Egypt that would also serve all and link also the African countries, and the importance of agriculture and agro-industries that would serve as feeding industries to, feeding sectors, agro-industry and agriculture, to the industrial sectors, especially with the importance of agricultural countries,
yes.
African agricultural countries. The most important example here is Sudan. So this really shows the importance of all these sectors, energy, industry, and agriculture, in order to strengthen the intra-African trade links between not only Africa, but, as I explained, Africa, Europe, and Asia.
Yes, Dr. Hamad, the meeting was also held in order to evaluate the progress of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So how far or how do you see the progress by which the deal is advancing?
Yeah, that's very important, and in this respect, the COMESA organization, which is more or less a very important trade organization, including many African countries, and as you know, Egypt was, until 1 or 2 years ago, was the head of the COMESA, and we should have played an important role in boosting the intra-African trade also through these organizations. We know very well that the African countries have a lot of potentials when it comes to the importance of trade for the development of such countries. And Egypt can, of course, play the role of the African leader, because we have to remember that historically, Egypt has always been the leader to Africa. I would say we only had competitors only in the last decade or even less than that, and the competitors are mainly Nigeria and South Africa, but we're still one of the most important 3 economies in Africa. But if you go back to more than 1 decade, Egypt was let me just give you a bit of a strong example, but the role of America vis-a-vis the whole world, was played by Egypt vis-a-vis Africa. And now, yes, it's true that Nigeria and South Africa are competing with us, but we still have a lead role to take the hands of the African countries towards development.
Yes, so Dr. Hamad, how do you weigh the importance of expanding intra-African trade in the current phase?
By the way, let me here tell you something, that in spite of all the turbulences that are taking place around us, not only in the region, in the Middle East, because Africa is still overlooking the Middle East. I mean, whatever the conflicts in Palestine, for example, in South Lebanon, Syria, what's happening in Syria is a great turbulence, and also the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and all these turbulences around us in the area. From my perspective, I think it is a great opportunity for Egypt because we're still the strongest country now in terms of politics. I mean, from a political standpoint, Egypt is standing stable and strong, and I think we have a great opportunity if we can boost the confidence of the foreign investor in the Egyptian economy. And this is the great time for us now. Against all odds, yes, there are a lot of turbulences, but I can see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel only for Egypt. But the idea is that our government has to act now, not tomorrow, and invest this edge that we have now, because I cannot guarantee that we will have it tomorrow. So the idea is how to really boost the confidence of the foreign investors, especially from the Western countries, but not only from the Western countries, also from the East, the Far East, like Chinese investors, like Japanese investors. Even I would go up to Indian, because India now is one of the top 4 or 5 economies on earth, and they have a lot of surplus for investment. So how to attract all these investments to Egypt at the moment, being the only country that is still standing solid and stable in the middle of all these turbulences. It's a great opportunity now. Our government has to act now and create more confidence, especially when it comes to what is very important to me, which is what we call the FDI, the foreign direct investment vis-a-vis indirect investments, which we call hot money, which is still good, yes, but I would personally target foreign direct investment, which is more stable, more long-term, more resilient, more important for the economy, and it would no doubt help a lot in even promoting the African economies around us.
Yes, so Dr. Hamid, why has Cairo focused on the industrialization as a means of addressing Africa's low levels of intracontinental trade?
Yeah, because this is basic. I mean, from an economic standpoint, in spite of all the developments that are taking place in the economies around the world, industries and agriculture will continue to be the base for a solid and sound and stable, balanced economies up till now. Yeah, this is the name of the game. You have to, if you want to grow, especially for economies similar to Egypt, with high population above 100 million inhabitants, industrialization backed by agriculture will continue to be the secret behind successful economic development in general. Of course, along with other sectors like tourism, like IT, like services, like trade. Yes, all these are important, but industrialization and agriculture will continue to be the backbone for an economy, a big economy with high population like the Egyptian economy.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Dr. Amr Hamid, economic expert. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Well, 5 migrants have died after a migrant boat capsizes off the Greek island, while many others went missing. The Greek Coast Guard have reported the incident, and we are going to know more in the following report.
At least 5 migrants drowned after their wooden boat capsized off Greece's southern island of Gavdos, the Coast Guard said on Saturday, and witnesses said many were still missing as search operations continued. So far, 39 men, most of them from Pakistan, have been rescued by cargo vessels sailing in the area. They have been transferred to the island of Crete, the Coast Guard said, adding that the number of those missing had not yet been confirmed. Coast Guard boats, merchant vessels, an Italian frigate and naval aircraft have been searching the area since Greek authorities were alerted about the incident on Friday night. In separate incidents on Saturday, a Malta-flagged cargo vessel rescued 47 migrants from a boat sailing about 40 nautical miles off Gavdos, while a tanker rescued another 88 migrants some 28 nautical miles off the tiny island in Greece's south. According to initial information, Coast Guard officials believe the boats left together from Libya. Greece was a favored gateway to the European Union for migrants and refugees from the Middle East, Africa and Asia in 2015-2016, when nearly 1 million people landed on its lands, mostly via inflatable dinghies. Incidents with migrant boats and shipwrecks off Crete and its tiny neighbor Gavdos, which are relatively isolated in the central Mediterranean, have increased over the past year.
In Niger, 39 people have been killed in 2 attacks in recent days to the west of the country near the border with the Burkina Faso. The details on the following report.
39 people have been killed in 2 attacks in recent days in western Niger, near the border with Burkina Faso. The statement was made by Niamey's Defense Ministry on Saturday. It said 2 horrific tragedies happened in the communities of Libiri and Kukuru. Criminals, cornered by constant operations by defense and security forces, launched attacks on defenseless civilian populations. It said the barbaric act saw 21 people killed in Libiri and 18 in Kukuru, including children. The operations took place from December 12 to 14. The communities are located in the Terra border region, an area teeming with fighters, which has been subjected to particularly bloody attacks in recent days.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, Africa Today. My name is Aman Mukhtar. Thank you for watching.